Last week was a big week, I thought, and I was really excited and talked about this on our show last week about that Carolina Wake Forest game, but also just for Wake Forest in general, having Carolina and Duke in back-to-back, albeit at home. I drew myself back from two 4-minute segments in each of those games. One from Carolina's perspective, because I think we're going to have this recurring theme of trying to figure out what Carolina's doing, going to do, needs to do, because they still need to do and have a lot to do to make sure they're in the NCAA tournament with this last stretch coming up. The other 4 minutes was about Wake Forest having a chance to really drive a nail even further in what was beginning to be a coffin for Duke there in the second half, and a little psychological warfare by John Shire and his zone defense that came up. Those two 4-minute segments are pretty defining for me from a coach's perspective. Looking forward to chatting about those some more with us today as we go through those and break them down. Hopefully there are things that can be identified from a coaching perspective that can either be solidified in Carolina's perspective, but also worked on Wake's perspective to try to have the right results that they both need to hopefully have both of them in the tournament. You talk about all those teams, David, across the state outside the ACC. We really would love to see Duke and Carolina and Wake represent from the ACC, although it's getting a little bit daunting with the numbers that are starting to kind of come into focus right now. So I'm looking at really getting into the micro with this and maybe breaking down some of these 4-minute segments that may have greater effects on the long-term outcomes of the season.